Pan-African movement of people and organizations have declared May the 23rd to the 29th African Liberation Week. They call it the biggest Pan-African mobilization of actions in the world, wherein they want different organizations on the continent and the diaspora to reflect on the need for renewed unity. Now, Coumba Toure is a movement coordinator with the organization, and she joins us now for over Zoom from Dakar, Senegal. A very good morning to you, and thanks for making the time.
Good morning, and thank you for receiving Africans Rising for Justice, Peace and Dignity on SABC.
Now, this is with the Africa Liberation Week. Your information says you take a different approach to celebrating Africa Month. How so?
African Liberation Day is 25th of May, and this is from 1963 at the start of the OAU. But African Liberation Week, as Africans Rising have been working on it this year, is to take it throughout the week, take it across the continent, make it a work of community organization, movements, groups across the continent that wants to push further the business of African liberation, to fight for justice for Africans wherever they are, on the continent, on the African continent, but also around the world.
So your drive to motivate Africans to take ownership and control of their destiny, of the continent's economic, cultural and political future, do you have a sense that this is not already happening?
Yes, we are clear that this is not already happening because we have around the world African making the majority of poor people, compared to the numbers that we are. We are also living on a continent where there is still so much work to do to be able to, as African, to benefit from what this continent has to offer in terms of riches. So economic issues are serious issues still. But even in other fields, we are still in a world where Africans are portrayed or seen as less and are subject to violence. Even Africans that lives, in other countries outside of Africa still face this cultural stigma. Racism is still well and alive around the world.
Let's just go through the 4 sub-themes of your commemoration this year: decolonization, equitable access to healthcare, gender justice, and climate and environmental justice. How did you choose these topics?
They are the topics that rise up from the work that we are doing. Today on this continent, there is a large movement, mainly of young people, who are working and fighting for further decolonization, because the realization is that in many of our countries we are still under neocolonialism. So there are many youth movement groups that are saying enough is enough. We need to be able to take ownership of our destiny, our politics. Decision making about our lives needs to be taken by ourselves, our communities. Of course, fighting and struggling also with our own government, who sometimes do not always help us. The question around health came also because of the last 2 years or so with the COVID-19, showed us that the world, the international community, we knew it before, will not care for us. We have to take over our own destiny around health issue, be able to have our own cure and our own vaccine, and make sure that it's accessible to Africans on the continent and globally. the question also around gender equity and equality spring from the fact that members of Africans Rising and people working with us also have highlighted the condition of women, the violences, but also just the situation that women live in, African women also, of course, women all over the world, but African women also, and consider that this is something that absolutely needs to change if we want to get to the justice that we are talking about. And the environmental issue for us is key, because as everything we're talking about, we need to be alive. We need to make sure that we leave this earth to the next generation in a better place.
Coumba, there's always a concern that these conversations are just so academic and high level that they don't filter down to the person on the ground. How do we translate all of these conversations into lived experiences of Africans?
These are already lived experience of Africans. When we talk about economic justice, it's not an academic issue. It's people live through it every day, and it's their life. Not having access to health is their lives. Women living through these inequalities, or somebody living through domestic violence or being raped, is far from being academic. So and the question around environmental crisis is something that touches people directly. So I guess the work is really, how do we mobilize all of the people who face these issues to be coming together, to be in solidarity with each other, and to fight to change their own situation. And that's the biggest struggle that we have.
Coumba, just one last question quickly. I don't know if you're aware of this development. You're talking to us from Dakar, Senegal, one of the most celebrated leaders on the continent, Dr. John Nkenga Song, being shifted over to PEPFAR, an American project. Is this some of the things that you're trying to work against, or are you in agreement with this development?
No, we want Africans to be in control of their destiny, and that means it needs to happen at every level: community level, business level, government level, cultural level. We don't want our lives to be determined and to go over other countries, be it America or anything. What needs to benefit Africans and what is African needs to stay in our hand. And you've seen for this 25th of May mobilization this week, we're talking about Africa for Africans.
Coumba, thank you so much for your time. And of course, if you want more information on this, go on to the Africa Rising online presence. But Coumba Toure, movement coordinator with the organization, and talking to us from Dakar, Senegal, on details about the Africa Rising African Liberation Week, which forms part of Africa Month celebrations.